Okay, anyway, Brian, our note taker, is not here, so we have to record this, so we have some documentation. Daniela Weiler should be here unless she chooses to do it by Zoom. Sonia's Zoom, we don't know about Ann. As I mentioned to you last night, we are down, our numbers are down, we need people. I am gonna reach out. Oh, yes. Yeah, I haven't heard anything. Well, it's not, yeah, until they get, once they shut down, the sheriff will lock the door. And if anybody comes late, they have to. Yeah, that has happened before. It's literally when they're done, but they just go through there.
Based on the people waiting outside, it looked like it's a rocket time.
I came here by mistake last night for the thing at this time, and there just was you guys. This time there's 10 or more outside. We're just chit-chatting, Gordon.
Okay, that's all right. I couldn't hear it anyway, so I won't tell on you.
That's good, we were talking about you.
All good things.
Better yet.
The microphone is on the screen somewhere.
It's right here.
Ah, so yell at that thing. Okay.
Yeah,
There is like an AC, air conditioner.
Oh, yeah, and then in winter it's heat, and it, no matter what, it drowns us out besides everything else that goes on.
and it's very easy to suddenly start talking to the person next to you. In your inside voice instead of talking to the room, and a voice that's loud enough for everyone to hear, and that usually gets picked up if you're actually talking as if it was a room full of people.
I do not miss the Zoom days.
I
I mean, I do love that we can do things remotely now, and that's really nice, but I do not miss everything being that way.
Well, I taught high school for 36 years, and I was gone way before Zoom, and I'm very happy because I would not have wanted to try to teach kids remotely. Because that's not how I work, that's how I try to get as close as possible and talk to students. And you can't do that. My good friend who we taught together forever, she's still doing it, and you don't know whether they're really there. You could be talking to nobody, because they could be on something else, or they could be having a nap, or
They'll put up a little image instead of
Yeah.
having the video turned on.
Yeah.
Well, and I blew it last night with the Zoom, got an email afterward from Lee Sharon who said, well, she tried to connect to the Zoom, but it wasn't until we were partway through the meeting. And apparently I had not set it up for an automatic entrance, you had to let people in. By that point, I was not looking at the screen and didn't see that there was someone in the waiting room. Never clicked in, but.
It doesn't look like,
This is a woman who's got their family goes up to Thousand Islands. She's got a place up in the Thousand Islands, so they spend as much time in the summer up there as they can.
it was his dog.
And she was there on Friday for the Arbor Day celebration, and then took off over the weekend.
How did that go that way?
It's great, it's fun, we had a great time. 4 classes of 4-year-olds, because it's the preschool.
Hey.
And they all came up and sat on the sidewalk at first, while we talked briefly to them. It's just,
Can't expand
what
this.
lives in a tree, you know?
That was in Park Hill, right?
It was a Park Hill.
So that's why Ed was there, because that's Ed's.
Well,
He's
he
in
comes to
alone.
these anyway, it doesn't matter where they are, he has not missed an Arbor Day.
Oh, I know, but he just, that was his neighborhood growing up.
Then the teachers there had a little boombox and they turned it on with songs, a couple of songs that the kids had learned, somebody singing these songs, and they all, it's like, you're the branches now, and they're sticking up their arms, and you're the leaves, and they wave them, and it's all this kind of stuff, and they sang along and had a great time. And then Ed stayed afterwards and got somebody to give him a tour of the school, because he hadn't seen it in 20, 30 years.
Yeah, he's from a big family, and they all went there.
The cards? I did look at the big cards, they're very cute.
Oh, yeah,
They're
they're
posted
around on the,
out there,
posted
the
on
ones
the,
from the 4 classes,
Oh, really?
on the windows to the
Yeah.
other side of it.
Is it on the parks or is it down, I
No,
forgot which
it's
one
over
it
on
is?
the.
Oh, is that what the thank you cards are?
Yeah,
Oh, I was
yeah.
wondering,
It
okay.
came out and gave them to
That's
us.
awesome.
All right, we will officially start, even though it's still only 4 of us
Where's Angela?
and Gordon. I haven't heard, any regrets from Angela. She's usually good about either zooming or showing up. Let's introduce who is here. Why don't you go first?
Okay.
And again, talk to Gordon.
Hi Gordon, I'm Patty Sawmiller, I'm the new recreation director here at DeWitt. I just started in January, so it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi Gordon, my name is Kathy McGrath. I'm a visitor, just checking out the DACC. I met you recently at maybe the I Love My Parks Day or something at Clark, or something. But I knew you a little bit through SUNY ESF as well, just a little bit, long time ago.
Okay.
So Gordon, can you tell these folks who you are, because you are the veteran of our crew.
Okay, Kathy, nice to meet you also. Where to begin? A long time ago. I moved to this area in about 1992, and somehow found, I guess through a neighbor who also happened to be an ESF professor. Took me to a meeting of DACC, and that was interesting, and they needed some members, so gradually I got involved, and then there were some issues that had to do with land use, and particularly with the effects of development just to the south of Clark Reservation, and there were primarily runoff issues during development when the vegetation is removed, and there's a period when, in that case, there were some control basins, and there was the detention basin that still exists in the DoubleTree development, and there were concerns that a new development could impact the park and the big lake, the 10-acre lake in Clark Reservation and so forth. Then I happened to be living in the DoubleTree development and was able to watch what's going on and come to planning board meetings. And there were to be about 80 units built on roughly 80 acres there. And initially even more than 80 houses that would have produced runoff that would have gone into Clark Reservation. And by the way, I complained about not being able to hear. Can anyone there hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
Perfect. Loud and clear, Gordon. Loud and clear.
Okay, good. So members of DACC, along with members of the Council of Park Friends at the time, followed the development processes, and that was actually the major activity, I guess, of DACC for several years. And eventually there was an agreement that the planning board said, okay, on the part that particularly drains toward Clark Reservation, we won't have any development on that section, but to the south, there can be drainage that goes into the basin below and away from Clark Reservation. There is still a concern for that development because it got partway and then and several years ago it stopped because they didn't have the appropriate approvals to put in their septic system. And it sits there today and is of interest. There's the northern roughly 40 acres is to be given to an agency or entity that will preserve the landscape. And that is to happen as soon as there is one unit unit built on the approved part of the Hummel Estate development. And so that was an interest for me and a number of other people affiliated with the Parks Group and with the DACC. And I happened to end up having to be chair of DACC for a number of years, in the good old days there.
Thank you. So I don't know if you got that, but Gordon?
We're just mapping.
We're map disoriented, yeah.
Yeah.
We're looking at the map of,
So here's Jameson.
you can see that one road that's put in that doesn't have any houses on it yet, and then
There's
the
a
part
belt.
north of that doesn't have anything, it's just open.
Right.
It's a great place to walk, though, or the neighborhood. Kids are, they're on their bikes all the time, and I really go up there, even in the winter, unless there's piles of snow, I walk up there. And my old joke, I lived in my house directly in front of Clark Reservation, the wooded areas of Clark Reservation, for now going on 46 years. So we were there, they started building the Doubletree development in 1988. We had already been there for 9 years. And I've called it Doubletree because they left 2 trees. They stripped everything else completely back. And that's why they ruined that dry lake bed at Clark Reservation. There used to be a, are you familiar with that, where the dry lake bed is behind?
Yeah.
There's a Lost Lake, I know, it's one of the trails, it's called Lost Lake.
But this was.
Dry Lake is the trail, it's just to the west of the entrance.
You go down,
Okay.
but so it's now got all sorts of silt in it. And there was a nice path, in my healthier days, I used to run that, but the path was totally washed out by the runoff of Doubletree, so they built a wooden causeway, which is pretty much rotting away by now after many years.
Well, yeah, the initial developer for Doubletree was encouraged to resolve some of the issues with runoff from the development of Doubletree that was running down into what was called Dry Lake. Became not dry, and one of the interesting activities that we carried out was to follow the depth of water for a period of time in those years. And there were times when that boardwalk that was to cross the stream that was going into this basin was covered with much more than 10 feet of water. So you would have had a hard time navigating on that boardwalk.
Okay, so, hey, Gordon, how do you know Joe?
I know Joe.
So, this is Kathy McGrath, who was a visitor, we were trying to recruit her. Joe is from the DeWitt Town Board.
Joe Chirenza.
And you met, have you met Dave? Do you know Dave?
Yes.
Yes, he was kind enough to help out with the tree giveaway.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I think you
I was there for a couple hours, I
Yeah.
wasn't there the whole time.
Yeah, he really committed himself. I was very, very thankful for him.
Treeless, you know.
We gave a lot of trees away. It was really great.
It was an interesting time.
And I can tell you both that, and I mentioned this to Kathy last night, I'm the chair of DACC. I sort of got it because they actually backed me, because Gordon had done it, and he was tired of it, and there was a little turmoil for a short time. And I said I would do it, but I'm not, as opposed to say Gordon or Dave or some of the other people who are here tonight, I'm not a scientist. I taught high school first social studies and then special education. And retired, I'm retired 14 years ago. So I have a different set of things that I don't have to do. However, I've always been an amateur environmentalist. I'm originally from the Hudson Valley, down in the Hudson Valley. Well, I was born in Yonkers, which is really up close to the Hudson River. And if you're familiar with the Hudson River, right across from where we lived was the Palisades, which was an incredible natural thing. And then my family moved to northern Westchester County, and you're at the mouth of the Hudson Islands. So I was always naturally just drawn to the environment. I worked at a county park in high school and all my college years down there, that in terms of science, it's the equivalent of Green Lakes. Except every day there are, a million crazy people. So I was, there were 4 or 5 of us college guys, and we were human. We picked up the garbage, and if they run every morning, they give you those little sticks, and they put tons of paper. I'm an expert in how to do it. So I started in Jamesville, working. There was a cleanup before there was an Earth Day cleanup. Anybody else there? Vicki Baker from Jamesville and Martha Lowe from Jamesville started a roadside cleanup, and I joined that. And then I gradually took it over. And we were technically affiliated with what was going on here because DACC was running a roadside cleanup in DeWitt. And I started actually doing a cleanup in the fall. And I said, the roads aren't dirty just once a year. And I called Gordon and said, can we get the whole town to do a cleanup in the fall? And he said, why don't you come and pitch the idea? So I did, and I kept coming to the meetings. And so the fall cleanup has gone away, but I still run the cleanup in the spring. It's usually you pick the worst possible weather day the whole spring, and that's the day we get together. And this year,
Never fails.
it was all 3. It was cold, it was windy, and it was wet. But we had.
But you got the high school kids there anyway.
Well, actually, you know what? I got
Wasn't it?
the tennis team, boys tennis team, which apparently just won the state championship or something. So they're good.
JG.
Yes, and they played up on Woodchuck Hill Road. And then the modified boys lacrosse team had 25 kids, and they come to Robbie T's Pizza in Janesville. Familiar with Robbie T's? And he lets us use their property, and they clean all through Janesville. And it was about their coach, who's a math teacher at the high school, said to me, what, we play in this kind of weather, so it can work. So we were semi-successful. If we had better weather, we would have had many more volunteers. But anyway, so that's what we do. tell us a little bit more, I know, and Dave knows, but Gordon doesn't know, and Patty doesn't know what your background is.
I came to the tree committee last night, so that's why you two know. I retired in July. My background is in natural resource management, so mostly water and fisheries and conservation biology, which is the conservation of declining species, native species, threatened ecosystems. But mostly on the aquatic side. For the tree committee, I had been right up front. I don't know my trees, but it would be fun to learn them. That's what I have to offer, but my hobby is native plants, for a variety of reasons, pollinators, songbirds, ecosystem habitat, all 9 yards. So that's my terrestrial experience. But anyway, with retirement, I'm sort of asking questions of how to spend my time and how to both do what I've been trained to do in natural resources, but also, maybe start something new as well. So this is a way maybe to use my training, and I have a PhD in natural resource management and fisheries, so water quality and aquatic life. But that's always really, the slant that works is always really human resource protection through water quality is the way that you save aquatic life. So contaminants, water quality, pollution is a lot of the
One of the big things we're generally working on right now is sustainability, just the town policy, the town, what is required, and part of that is water. And in fact, I always try to push that, when I do the road therapy, they talk, if we're cleaning in Janesville, and you're right at the edge of Butternut Creek, and it's garbage is gonna be spilled into the water.
And interestingly, the other big initiative, I guess, that we got roped into, should I say, I don't know, this plant giveaway started as a project from an organization, like an environmental institute, with federal money, grant money that they got that was directed toward Lake Creek watershed. And we made a split between Lake Creek and Butternut Creek watersheds, go different directions. Lake Creek goes west, Butternut goes north. And there are parts of the town properties that border the north branch of Lake Creek up in one of the town parks, Maxwell Park. And they've got rights to work, as OEI has gotten rights to work on a couple of private properties that also border North Branch just before the two branches come together. And has planted a lot of trees in the riparian zone in order to potentially, hopefully suppress frag, to reclaim fields that were too wet to really be used in the park. And because they had done studies saying that there's actually a native fish population spawning. But fish, were they? I don't know, I'm trying to remember, but at any rate, they were surprised to find it. But they were doing the sampling and finding that, well, yeah, they were still spawning fish in Lake Creek, even though you get to the end of it, and you're north side of Syracuse and going into some rough territory. So that we sort of went together with the town bought some of the trees so that we could have a giveaway that included the Butternut Creek watershed. These are seedlings given to people pre-order to plant anywhere they want in a sense. Right away because they don't have control over that and what they're planting. So.
Actually, I realize how I know you because I actually went to USF as well. So I have a master's in recreation, but I also have in environmental education. My undergrad was fisheries and wildlife.
Okay.
So I've had
Where
to
are you,
circle
sir?
all the parts.
What year were you there?
At ESF, I graduated ESF in 2008.
Okay.
Was there 80, 60, and 80?
Okay.
And I was an adjunct faculty member in probably 2007.
Okay.
And then I actually worked with Michael Lincoln quite a bit on the Doggerese.
Okay.
Atlantic
So-
State Single Foundation and as a DEC contractor.
It helps when the supervisor of your town is assigning things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's usually ahead on most stuff. Well, so the next thing was supposed to be the tree committee report, but you're actually talking, Kathy and I were there last night.
Two of the people who were there, Joey wasn't fit to make that one, but
I don't know, really.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
so,
and Gordon wasn't there either. So for your catching up with the tree committee, we talked about a wonderful workshop in Thornton Park where we planted a bunch of trees, some of which were really rough. And in fact, the people who set up this workshop, it was a Region 7, DEC Region 7 sponsored workshop, collaborating with the Syracuse Parks Department, Syracuse Arborist. They had contracted with someone to have these trees delivered so that they could use them in demonstrations of tree planting. Bare root, all burlap, containerized. They sent most of them back because they were in such bad shape. They said these were not what we'd ordered. You know, the bare root didn't look like they'd been properly taken out. The containerized ones were so root bound, they were terrible. They kept the ball burlap because they couldn't get replacements for those right away. And when they opened them up, a bunch of them were awful.
Ordered from where, Bennett?
They did not say.
They didn't
were being
divulge.
very- But they said last minute they got replacements from Aspinalls. So Dale came through and got them something that worked, except the ball burlaps that they already had there. So, interesting stuff. So we talked about that. We talked about the all of our where we're at for recertification for Tree City USA. We checked all the boxes there, and how many points we can get for a Tree City Growth Award. I think we're in pretty good shape there too. So,
Now, can you explain, what's the difference between DAC and the tree committee?
the tree committee is sort of a subcommittee of DAC, but it's not member-wise a subcommittee of DAC. But the chair of the tree committee is automatically on DAC. It reports back to DAC. And so for a lot of the initiatives that we have that have to do with policy, I don't try to take them, or I don't know if this is what's happened. Gordon could speak to that more than I could because he was on the committee longer than I was. I haven't been taking them directly to the board or to the planning, the zoning committee. I've been bringing them to DAC, sometimes putting them together because the town code that describes makeup of the tree committee and how it's run, who it reports to, is actually a part of the code that describes DAC. So you have DAC and then tree committee is a part of that. There's a separate code that is for trees and how the town handles trees and how town residents interact with the town concerning trees. But the actual code that describes the tree committee is a part of the code that describes DAC.
yeah, and I'm so convinced that the tree committee are the people that actually do things. They're very hands-on. They didn't have an actual May meeting, instead we were at the firehouse, we do it, pruning and mulching and things like that.
That's our payment to the firehouse because we're using their space.
But you know, in the Arbor
We
Day,
use it way more than you do.
I would love to get more people from DAC actively involved in things. And in fact, that's kind of a good segue into talking about Canal Day. From the minute I was in DAC, I started in DAC, I kept trying to get, nobody knows who we are outside of DAC. In fact, I went to some function downtown and there were a whole bunch of planning board members there. And I introduced myself and I said, I'm Dennis Payne, I'm the chair of DAC. Well, what's DAC? Well, you're within planning and zoning, and we are in planning and zoning, and you're telling me you don't even know who we are. So I wanted to get us into Canal Day at some sort of site so that we could let people know who we are. The very first year we did it, I'm not sure, I think it was maybe 2016, 2017. Megan Wall was in charge, and there was this guy that used to do balloon sculptures. I don't know if you've seen any of that. And they were gonna do it, it was 50th anniversary of Canal Day, and they wanted to have a really elaborate balloon sculpture. He used to do big things in the room downstairs at the courtroom, but he wanted to take over the whole atrium, but that was gonna be expensive, and Megan asked us for money, so we gave $2,000. And he, in exchange, this guy did his whole thing on a forest balloon sculpture. And I said to Megan, can we have a nice spot for our table? So she gave us one right outside the door. And it worked perfectly because I had a 10 by 10 canopy tent. And so we were able to cover the whole thing so people could come in and out in the shade. And then we got t-shirts. It's a DACC, we have a nice banner. And what we've been told that people won't stop unless you have some kind of a draw for kids. So we had just a treasure hunt or something where we would send kids all over with a little list. So go to the woman. Do you still have a woman that does the birds?
No, she won't be here this year, it just means we have to be at least at the million instead of the stage.
Yeah.
And I think she usually is underneath.
But so we send them there.
Yeah.
To the butterfly garden when it was functioning, all over the police, go see them. Well, so anyway, and then they come back and we give them, the kids at dollar store get like kites, tons of kites, and they love them. And so the parents would hang around and listen to some of the stuff we had. So we've been doing a little bit of that, right? So we would still like the table, so we want more participation from our DACC people, to do more to convince everyone we have something that makes sense.
And when we were talking about it last night, it occurred to me that without the newsletter, we don't have, one of the major ways we used to interact with residents and let them know about programs like the Street Tree program. This would be an opportunity potentially to table, essentially, and put out some sign or something, get people saying, oh, free trees? And have them understand what the program is, what the limitations are, what the timing of it is. Well, I want a tree now. Well, no, we don't plant it in the middle of the summer. It's a very hot, dry time and the tree would die. Because we probably won't water it enough if we don't have the manpower to water all the trees.
Don't even water it enough at this point of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I'm open to whatever you guys wanna do.
We've got on the flyer here is what's going on, but I'm more than happy to,
Yeah, whatever, I want you there, let me know what you need, what you want.
Well, the table is the first thing that made up the location where people see us.
Okay.
It's up to you. Bring whatever you want to.
Yeah, again, maybe we'll do the kids giveaway stuff, but
And then we're gonna do 2 big tents in the parking lot here. One of them is going to be the beer tent, so that will be built it all.
that's new.
Your turn, all right.
Yeah. So we have a historian who's coming to talk about the history of Marie's along the canal. So we figured let's figure that fun and history together. But there will be a second tent, which is just
Just what?
seating.
Seating.
So if somebody wants to go to the food truck and they
Yeah,
can choose it.
so get
Sure,
everybody on.
And
yeah.
listen to the band, because they'll be right next to where the pavilion is. So, we haven't mapped out yet exactly where tabling is gonna happen, but I was thinking along the path, really right there. Along the path, you are right in the, street or even around the tents. So, I mean, if that works for you
And
guys.
yeah, as long as we're not burying someplace.
Yeah.
Sonia Krog, who's not here, has a demonstration she does with composting. She also has a big poster that's in the closet here on sustainability and I think the title is Sustainable it's been several years and stuff. We have probably 5 by 7 postcards in here. So any kind of informational stuff we can do, we would like to do. I've mentioned Angela Weiler, who's another member who's also not here, is the chair of the Friends of Park Reservation. And I suggested to her that she brings some stuff on what they do. So, really, that's it.
I'm on board, you tell me what you need.
Okay. The big thing is you have to get us this far.
Some free beer passes.
I know you think we're getting that.
Actually, I'm
Joe, I'll try to work that out at least for the board, right?
I'm a fussy beer drinker. What are they?
Myers Creek has some very
Myers
nice.
Creek, yeah.
Okay.
So, we've got, Myers Creek, Willow Rock, Freight Yard, and then there's another one, it's not on this flyer, Top Cursive is also coming. That's a new one, flyer now.
So I don't know if anybody else here has been down the canal path far enough, but they have signs along there. There is one about brewing along the canal.
Oh, is there? I didn't even realize
It's,
that. I
it's,
thought I read all of them, but maybe I hadn't
yeah,
been part
I
of
mean,
that.
this was, down toward, Green Lakes,
Okay,
just beyond that.
gotcha.
The other thing I'm thinking is from 1 to 4, we're gonna do boat rentals over at Cedar Bay, so people will actually be in the canal. I don't know if there was anything environmental wise that we could do with that.
We talked one year, there's a lot of debris in the canal.
Not actually, I mean, I've canoed in that canal, what there is mostly is a lot of growth, because there's a lot of runoff, it's stagnant water, and you get a fair amount of probably nitrogen phosphates off of lawns.
Yeah. But it was, it was the end of winter, so it was winter.
Yeah,
That was when I was done. And get people to clean up. Those bags are there for a reason.
Yeah, right? We give you the bags, come on,
Yeah.
and a place to put it.
Yeah, and that's, it's a state park, right? Technically, they're responsible. All right, we, really, our next meeting should be on July 3rd. I wasn't gonna have them, but since we're the only ones here and Canal that is the next meeting, I can at least
do something in order to organize, you're gonna have to figure out what's doing what, right, through.
and I can send everybody an email and say, either give me some information or we're gonna have to have a meeting. It's gotta be one or the other. You want to show up. What time do you want us to set up?
You can say whatever you feel comfortable.
Okay.
It's over here, it's starting at
4,
Right.
so,
really,
if you wanted to drop stuff off ahead of time, that we can put down here, and that way you can just set up like right when you get here, that's fine too, so just, let me know what you need for setup.
I gotta tell you, I'm intrigued. So I told you I'm from young. My mother's family emigrated in the 1850s. My mother's family came to this country in the 1850s from County Cork, Ireland, and their last name was Hurley. So I'm seeing this on, this is the poster for things in Canal Day, and there are gonna be food trucks. And one of them is Hurley's Smokehouse and Grill. So I'm gonna seek this person out.
Related here.
It could be, do I get free
Free
food or
It's
something?
supposed to be really, really good, so,
Yeah,
if you're gonna have a family relation to find, I would go after that.
Right. Well, in all honesty, I don't have anything more, because I was hoping that if Sonia was here and she had anything more on sustainability.
right,
And she's not, and Angela's not here, so she doesn't have any kind of report on Clark Reservation. I can tell you that we expect somebody, probably Shannon, but you're invited to every meeting. Our meetings are open to the public.
I definitely come when I can, for sure.
And it's,
Summer's hard for me, but.
right, unless it's, you know, some drastic circumstance, it's the first Monday, 7 o'clock right here. Bring your friends. And seriously, we are short of people. You mentioned Olivia Green, you know her, do you remember her? I don't think you do.
No.
She was the only young person on our commission, and she had the nerve to have a baby. She had to step away, she does, I think it was the second one.
Yeah.
And
How dare her.
so she kind of stepped away. But I'm thinking, that's, you know, her youngest must be 7 or 8, maybe a little older, I can't. You know, and she might still be totally committed, but if she's not, she was great. One of the things we did, Christina Ferrara from Cornell Cooperative Extension used to come to our meetings. And they had given her the assignment to do something on ticks. And to do some sort of public presentation, or she was talking about a webinar or something. And I said, why don't you get DACC to do something? So we put on a presentation, a public presentation. It was the worst possible month ever. We did it on March 5th, 2020. So 2 weeks, thank God we
2
did.
weeks before the world shut down.
Yeah. So, but we had a full house down in the courtroom. We had,
Actually, I call that really good timing because that's when the use of trails and parks exploded.
oh, right,
True.
right, but, we had, a professor from ESI, what's his name, Brian Lee. He's apparently well known because the undergrads we always loved his courses. He was an expert on ticks. There was a guy who was an MD at Upstate and the VA. And then the guy that's conducted all the tick research. And they were there as experts and Christina talked. And we were there for 2.5 hours. We used to do stuff like that. And Olivia was there. That was, I think, her last official thing was giving out literature.
I mean, if you guys come up with the curriculum or the things that you wanna do, we have the power to advertise stuff. Just let us know what you wanna do and we're more than happy to reach out to the world and say no.
Maybe I can see if Christina still has.
How do you do that? We talked about that at the tree committee last night. How do we reach people these days? How do you reach out?
Electronic.
What's that?
Well, yeah, but people let you in electronically.
Yes. So we have DACC, which has over 4,000 accounts.
Okay.
in it.
So you
So,
know, unless you do.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's not ideal, it's really difficult to send out like pictures or logos and things. But we can, links are no problem, so we can actually make them choose something, which is kind of skirts that a little bit.
Somebody's gotta build a web page and then you
Yes, yep, which we can do, I think you already have a web page, and,
I don't have any control of anything that's on a town computer.
yeah,
Right, so
yeah, but let us know what you
Eric was
need.
talking about
I think Eric can edit it,
trying to.
I might be as
bring that up
well,
today, so, yeah.
if Eric doesn't have editability, I can get it. So
Okay,
just-
that's good to know.
That would be a way to reach out to both committees of what's going on and
Yeah.
drawing interest is to
Yeah.
get those updated.
We used to have a big article in the newsletter every time.
And usually those, at least from the tree committee, the years that I was involved in that, you would see a bump after you had something talking about the availability of trees, people would start calling in and saying, oh, I'm interested in this tree.
Yeah.
We only had about 10 requests so far this year, 11 as of today. But
Interested in the committee or?
interested in having trees planted in there.
Oh, having
Right
Does
away.
the DeWitt website have sort of a running news blog thing when you
Yes.
first come to the page? That would be another way that I can try to grab people rather than having them have to wander their way.
Here's the other thing we rely on is the Eagle Bulletin. Jason Klaber, the reporter, we sort of cultivated him. He comes to a lot of our meetings, and he's always happy to write an article or two. And I think more people read that right now than read the Post Standard. And in fact, I've had better success giving him information than giving Post Standard because they don't seem to really care.
And then we can also reach out to all the emails we have from the training board too,
That's true. That's true.
So, you know, that might be more.
Build a list of people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not joking with you, we still get at least once a week a phone call, is there any trees left?
They would write down their email
They would
addresses.
be very dead.
In the cooler.
Yeah,
Deep freeze.
they are very dried out.
Didn't plant them somewhere.
All right, that's anything,
I don't know.
Gordon, anything you want to throw in? Oh, here's what I can tell you. Sue and I, Sue's my wife, we went to Manlius today, we visited Martha. So Martha is our other member of DACC, who will always be a member of DACC until she doesn't want to. She is 97. She is, as of this past winter, in the Brookdale assisted living facility in Manlius. And so we were there with her for about 45 minutes. And she says she's okay. She's very happy there. She living and driving right down the street from me. So again, with Black Reservation in backyard. She was, you said you knew her name from Sierra Club.
Yeah.
For years, she was president of the Sierra Club. You know, a serious active environmentalist in this community forever. As I said, it was Martha and Nikki Baker who started the Earth Day Cleanup. And so anyway, so yeah, we saw her today, and
We see her also, but she doesn't move at all.
no, I don't know what's happening with the house. She, if you drive down Seneca Turnpike, she has the house with spruce trees in front, and you really can't even see the house. It's, she's just, you know, back to nature.
She had me mow the lawn once a year. She made me mow it in yellow.
So this may not be anything anybody wants to even think about. It's not something I'm really fond of, but we have had 10-year plans before for the town, right?
You know,
And they had all kinds of interesting things in them, most of which never get done, some of which have. And it's been well over 10 years, I think, since the last 10-year plan.
Yeah.
Joe, do you know, is there any moves are they doing this sort of thing? Because it would be nice to know about it ahead of time and get some thoughts pushed in there about directions we'd like them to.
you know, probably should sit down with that and talk about what's next.
Because I haven't heard anything.
And I know I'd like to do at least a 20-year plan for
Yeah,
the RAC,
yeah.
because we just, I mean, you can't apply for a grant without being like, this is the
Where
long-term
we're headed,
plan.
where are we headed, yeah,
Yeah, exactly,
Well-
so it can be a really nice jumping off point when we go and search for monies. So they're annoying to do, but they're very useful when it comes to actually asking people to give us money.
We're stuck that way somewhat in the tree committee too, or at least in trees for the town, because DEC, their grants are tied to what you already have. And for this planting grant that we applied for last year, you had to have had an inventory done within a certain period of time. We were just within that period of time last year, but now it'll be too late, even though we still have the results of the inventory, we've actually kept it up better than I had thought. It's in pretty good shape, but they want a new inventory to have been done. And you can apply for a grant for an inventory if you want, but, you know, so it's always.
All those pieces.
Yeah.
It's figuring out which dominoes you gotta line up.
Right, and urban forestry plan again had built into it, it should be renewed, revisited every 5 years, and here in the interim, immediate steps that should have been done.
Yeah.
Most of them have not. So,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's too. It's a lot of work.
Yep.
It's reality.
All right.
Okay. Haven't heard anything more about the quarry being filled in up in Janesville behind the cement plant. Sounds like that's still going well.
I haven't heard what's the word really.
It's, I mean, it's, when I walk back there, they're continuing to do it, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything
Yeah.
amiss out of that. It seems to be a pretty smooth operation.
Joe, have you heard of anything more on Hummel Estates, or is it still?
I'm gonna ask Lana if they've re-upped the ran out or not.
Yeah.
So when we run out, we'll see what happens, but like I said, what Gordon said, the last thing we heard is they didn't have the flow for septic.
Right.
Then it was down to 36 homes, they still didn't have, the county doesn't have enough for septic, so they would have to go into septic tanks.
Yeah, which means they have to go out back and redo each lot and put a septic system in. So, well, I mean, I think for us, we're happy.
Yeah, so
I'm sure
if we could hold them off as long as we can, you know, I mean, that'd be great. But I'm not gonna ask her if they ran out or not, or plan, because they have to renew every year.
Well, their original plan, this place that Gordon was talking about, was 100 houses or something, and they were gonna bring their main driveway right down onto Seneca Turnpike, directly across from the driveway to Clark Reservation. So you knew every storm it was gonna just
Run right into
it was gonna
Clark's.
be the Colorado River rolling down. And they tore down one of the few barns in this town that was in good shape. It was a beautiful big
Yeah, right there.
barn, and they ripped it down, and so it's gone for no particular reason. So, anyway.
That was one of the planning board's decisions that I think was not a good one. They just thought an old barn shouldn't be part of a modern development, but it
Should have left.
could have been preserved and been a real asset.
It certainly would have. Okay,
One other thing, did I read correctly that Alana is now an employee of the,
She is.
and I wonder if maybe she wouldn't be a good person to interact with and talk to, get to some of it.
well, we've invited her to meetings. She's busy. She's got kids in high school, I think. In fact, the last meeting, she was taking her daughter to voice lessons or something, the same night as our meeting. But she's the director of planning and zoning now. So,
And she's only been director of planning and zoning for about 2 months.
2 months.
I have a feeling her
Everybody's throwing
desk
every,
is kind of piled up pretty
everybody's
high.
throwing every at her.
Yeah.
And she's a former DACC member as well.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. In the first week or two, she didn't even have a computer that was functioning. So,
She's getting her feet
yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, as I said, I include her now in the email, but, we'll try to get her involved. I've sat and talked to her too about some stuff. And, where does she live in relation to you? Is she on Singletree, Gordon?
No, she's.
If you go up from our house, go up the hill, and take the first left, and she's the second house in right there.
Okay, all right.
Can't make it the other street.
But there's Rush Creek, there's,
You know where Dave, how do you look, or Dave Deacon lives?
the Thunderhead is the big one that comes around. And then,
Should be hanging out.
yeah,
This one was
Rush Creek, Lone Wolf, which is,
Lone Wolf, Rush Creek, Single Tree, Thunderhead,
is another.
Sewickley is way down at the bottom. And that's it.
Gordon's in that, what's Gordon?
He's on Singletree. Singletree's the nice one.
I look at the sign for that other street that's perpendicular to Single Tree every day. And I can't remember the name of it as I'm sitting here now.
Yeah, we actually looked at a house up on Thunderhead one time. We really liked it. The realtor screwed it up.
We actually have a tree request from Sewickley. It's the first one I've had up in that
Yeah.
area.
That's would be an older home.
Yeah, it was a bit older, but boy, it looks like the soil is mighty thin up there.
It's
I
like
feel like they scraped everything off when they. We'll see.
Their soil is down in the dry lane.
Yeah, that's where it went.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Okay, guys, we are all done. Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, folks.
See you in Ruston one of these days.
I did-
Nice to meet you all.
You never rush.
I did get
I'm worried about Joe a little bit. He's pretty quiet tonight, but
Yeah.
good to see him anyway.
Gordy, how you doing? How's your wife?
We think we're making progress. She has knee problems.